Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, three-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
On this episode, Dan and Hoges discuss the Twins' three-game series against the San Francisco Giants. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning into Men for the Win. My name is Dan Thompson. With me, as occasionally happens, is Andrew Hoganson. Hoges, thanks for filling in here. What great baseball games to follow along and to watch too, Hoges, this weekend. A three-game sweep, just when the Twins needed it.
Yeah, they needed this series so bad with the way that it's been going for them lately to be able to get that three-game sweep and have the offense kind of wake up a little bit. I mean, it was pretty much everything we wanted and more from this. And yeah, I'm happy to be back recording with you guys. I'm pretty sure you kind of needed a respite from David after his explaining in intricate detail what ERA meant to you in the last podcast.
I felt really condescended upon. Like
I felt it too. He was hot about that one. I'll try not to explain to you what on base percentage or batting average means in this podcast, but no promises. We'll see.
Well, thank you very much. I may put my foot in my mouth and I might need it explained. A couple things that we need to visit here. First is a couple corrections. So one is on behalf of myself. I accidentally called the Twins pitching coach Phil Mackey, and that's the name of a local radio personality. That is not there. It's actually Pete Mackey, so I apologize. I hate when you make a mistake and you're kind of in the middle of like a rant or a complaint. Like you kind of lose your credibility when you're saying the wrong name, Hoges.
Oh, you really do. Like it just takes the wind out of your sails when you hear it later, and you're like, because you know people are just gonna catch on to that too. And I got to call David out for a correction too. His Favre history isn't as good as it should be. He was playing for the Packers when Strahan had that sack, and he actually rolled right into Strahan, they just had the left tackle just completely whiff on him too. So it couldn't have been any more intentional. And I'm 100% with you guys on that argument. You can't just pipe a fastball right down the center of the plate for Pujols to get that 600 one. You got to make him earn it, because otherwise there's an asterisk next to it. And I think if you're the player, you can't even like that either. Totally.
And you know what? Albert Pujols is still at 693. So he's only got a month left here to hit the 7 more. I hope he does it though. I would love to see another guy hit the 700 home runs.
I think they'd be sweet too. And if by all accounts, it seems like he's a guy who did it the right way too. So it'd be nice to have that guy in that exclusive club.
Well, and the Cardinals are leading the NL Central. The Guardians still lead the AL Central, but it's down to 2 games because the Mariners took 2 of 3 from Cleveland. And even one that the Guardians did take was just, I think, 3 runs in the 8th inning. So they did not play well in that series. And now the Twins, Hoges, just 2 games back. Did they need a sweep here to salvage the season, do you think?
Yeah, I think they did. Like, I know there's still a lot of baseball yet to be played, but when you've lost 6 in a row and you're 4 back and things were looking how they were looking and the White Sox were creeping up on them, I mean, they were tied with the White Sox, who actually got swept by the Diamondbacks at home. I mean, this was a huge weekend for the Twins. And this team, just when you think they're about to be dead in the water this year, they come back and they have a series like this, and it gets me hoping again. And I'm sure I'm going to be let down again, but hey, you got to enjoy the ride while it lasts, right?
Exactly. Well, let's go into the recap.
Series recap.
For once, we don't have to actually stall until we get to this point. We got good things to talk about when we get here.
And what a way to open a series, Hoges, with a 9-0 win. The Twins get 2 in the first, then a big 6-run third, and they're off to the races with Joe Ryan on the mound.
So I have a question about the 6-run third. What for you is batting around?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I think the term batting around makes more sense if you get to that 10th guy. Like if Luis Arraez opens the inning, then he comes back around and he bats again. And that's a round. Is that what you would say?
Yep, that's exactly. Because, yeah, you're batting around. You have to make it all the way around. And if you just make it all the way through, you didn't make it back around again.
See, prepositions matter. This is the thing, Hoges. They do matter.
I'm glad an English teacher agrees with me on that one. That gives some credence to my argument. But, yeah, this was a great game. Correa starting it off hot. Joe Ryan looked great with 6 innings pitched, only 2 hits. He did have 3 walks, but he struck out 8 guys. It seemed like he was struggling a little bit towards the end of that outing. I mean, he ended up throwing 107 pitches, but he was able to get through some things, which ended up being huge because we ended up using a lot of bullpen guys the rest of this series. So it was nice for him to make it 6 in this game.
It is so interesting that he is the guy, it seems, that Baldelli is okay with going past that 100 mark to get his 6 innings, because you got to think, if this is any other Twin starter, he's out in the 4th or 5th inning.
It is interesting to point that out because lately he's been throwing almost 100 pitches every single outing, whether or not he's giving up 10 earned runs or 1 earned run. And then Sonny Gray's getting a quick hook with 80 pitches. I wonder if it's just basically how he throws. I mean, he doesn't have overwhelming heat at all, so maybe he's not putting as much pressure on his arm. But it's encouraging to see the young guy be able to do that and stick out there and still keep up that velocity. And he's had some success lately. All the Twins, I mean, the Twins pitching staff in general has been great lately.
Right. Even during that 6-game losing streak, it wasn't because the pitching was bad every game. That was because the lineup was inept. And here, who knew it, Hoges, but Kyle Garlick was the key to the Twins lineup. He goes 3 for 4, 3 runs, an RBI, and he's batting leadoff, which, you know, I guess I've never liked him batting leadoff, and yet he always is good. He always does well when he leads off, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's weird. Gleeman actually wrote an article in The Athletic about how much Garlick means to this Twins lineup to be able to go in there against lefties, and he was proven right instantly. I mean, he went 3 for 4 in this game, and it was huge having him there instead of having a platoon outfielder go up against a guy that they're not having their ideal batting matchup against. It just shows you how much that matters in baseball. And I know this is a small sample size, but it's good to have him back in the lineup.
2 other things to talk about with this game I wanted to mention. In the 5th inning, Carlos Correa makes double plays look routine sometimes. And there was a play where a ball was smacked to short, and the way he gets the ball out of his glove into his hands and to second base is just so remarkable. I can't talk enough, I think, about what his defense has meant to this team, Hoges, in addition to what was obviously a great series at the plate.
It has been amazing. I can't remember if this series either or the one before where he had that tag out on the throw to second for the runner stealing the base, and he basically just caught it and backhanded. Like, the stuff that he does looks so simple, and if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But his release point, like you mentioned, his arm strength is incredible, and it's so nice having that up the center of our defense this year.
We talk about WAR a little bit. I still don't totally understand WAR. If somebody, that's a term right there, Hoges. If you want to explain a term to me, WAR, what is it good for? I don't totally get it, but I think a lot of his WAR has got to come with his defense. But his bat came in this series. Also, Emilio Pagan, 2 scoreless innings in just the kind of situation I think we want to see Emilio Pagan with the Twins up big. He gives them 2 big innings.
It was nice to see Pagan get in there and get 2 innings and get out of there unscathed. It's such a rare occurrence for him now. And yeah, I agree with you. If there's ever a situation for Pagan to be in, it's when we're winning 9-0.
But then there's game 2, Hoges, which, what a thrilling game. And we should point out the Giants are about a 500 team too. They're kind of like the Twins in that spot, but they're just so far behind in their division, behind the Dodgers and behind the Padres, that they're in a very different situation than the Twins are. But gosh, the Twins look like they're going to lose this game here all the way into the 9th. They blow some opportunities. The Giants weren't particularly great in this. Their only runs were on sac flies, but the Twins find a way in the 9th and in the 10th to win this game 3-2, Hoges.
Yeah, Correa comes up big with an RBI in the 9th in order to get that game to 2-1. And I don't know if you watched that play or not, but I still can't really explain what happened with all the base running that was going on. It was a little bit of like the Sano against the Tigers-esque, where everyone just starts running and the defense has no idea what to do, and then all of a sudden everyone has advanced to base and no one's out, and you're like, can we watch the all 22 version of this so we actually know like when people ran and everything? Like, is it just me, or does it seem like this is happening way more this year and we're always on the good end of it?
We have been, and I would think this has got to be a credit to Tommy Watkins, because Tommy Watkins put up the stop sign, and there was like hey, Max, when I put up the stop sign, that actually means you should go. But you're going to hesitate first to create doubt in the Giants' mind, because Max is kind of stopping, and then he just goes for it. And then it's like the Giants defender doesn't know where to throw the ball because they've got Luis Arias caught between the bases. I wondered, did he forget what the score was? Like, how lucky. But I got to think that whenever there's a moment of luck, Tommy Watkins is actually behind it with a great scheme.
Right. I think what happened is the players have been listening to David just rant about him so much on the podcast that whenever they see him do something, they're like, opposite, we must do the opposite. I mean, it worked out in this case.
It did. And the funny thing to me was the Twins had a much better scoring chance in the bottom of the 8th. Correa leads off with a single. Cave singles him over to third. And the Twins at that point are only down 1 run. So it's 1-0, runners at the corners. The Twins' core of the lineup comes up and they can't get it done at that point. But it's in the 9th with 2 outs. They create this big rally and Jake Cave comes through with an opposite field single to tie the game.
I mean, he's proven David wrong again, too. He went on such a huge rant about the one guy that you do not want to have up in a situation like that is Jake Cave. So sure enough, who do we get up in the 2 games later? Jake Cave, but he comes through in the clutch. Jake Cave.
Every time we did this last season, every time we counted Jake Cave out, and we counted Jake Cave out a lot of times last season. And I feel like even this season, we've counted them out, but they have nowhere else to go, right? Like, they can't get rid of Jake Cave right now because he plays a competent outfield. But there he comes through, and then we'll talk about him more in Game 3. Then in the bottom of the 10th, in what a fitting way to end a game, the Twins win with a walk-off walk.
There's nothing better in baseball than a walk-off walk, because it's a 4-pitch walk, nonetheless, too. And I just love Celestino's reaction when that ball's low, and he just stands there like, what do I do now? And he still takes off like all his body armor stuff before he trots down to first, because God forbid you keep all that on when you're doing the walk there. But oh man, it's so funny because it's such a muted celebration for a while as guys just kind of realize like, oh yeah, we won, cool.
Well, and it was Gilberto Celestino was actually a pretty big player in this series. He had kind of a bonehead play in the top of the 9th, where he apparently thought there were already 2 outs, and then when he caught the ball, the third, because he starts trotting in, which allowed the base runner to go to third then from second base. So I guess I feel good for him to be up in that spot. Maybe he was just feeling relief, like, oh, thank goodness.
Well, thankfully we didn't get burned there either, because those runs ended up not coming around to score, so it ended up just being a 2-0 game going into the bottom of the 9th. But yeah, and then we get to the 10th in extra innings, and Correa had another great play to get the lead runner so that the Twins have been remarkably doing a pretty good job of keeping that ghost runner from scoring in these games. They just can't find a way to push the run across. But yeah, then they do in the 10th with the walk-off walk. But what a deal.
Well, and two of the things about that, they did lay down a bunt. So Nick Gordon sacrificed the runner, Caleb Hamilton, who I thought was great. He was coming in for Jose Miranda as the pinch runner at second, because apparently he's an improvement over Jose Miranda's base running skills. And he scores his first major league run by he did have to hustle, I guess, on Gordon's sacrifice, but then he just gets kind of stand there for a while and then walk home with the game-winning run.
It's got to hurt a little bit, right? Like if you're a position player and you get pinch ran for like a backup catcher, like I feel like immediately after the game, Miranda was like, "Hey, Hamilton, we're gonna have a little race off right now just to show Rocco that I'm still faster than you. You might not come back from that."
He may not. And the Twins, for all the issues, well, the pitching was actually pretty good in this game. Sonny Gray goes 5 with the 1 earned run. He does walk 4 guys, but he dances around that. Thielbar comes in, gives him 1 of the 3rd. Jax comes in. McGill has some trouble there. He does give up a run, but he's able to wiggle out. And then Duran, like you said, shuts down the door. And again, the Twins are able to find a way to keep the team off the board in the 10th and give themselves a chance to win. And a huge win considering the Twins left 14 men on base in this game, 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. But none of that matters. We don't have to talk about that when they win a big game like this.
Yeah, about time that to have one go their way where they kind of just everything they're doing looks like they're dominating the game, but they can't push those runs across, and then they're able to finally just finish this one off. It felt good to get that victory. Yeah, and then Game 3 today, the Twins win again, 8-3. The offense comes alive again. Sanchez had a decent outing. He had 3.2 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits and 2 runs. It's weird that I'm calling that decent, but like he looked like he was decent up there on the mound, being able to at least get them a few innings, and ended up turning into a bullpen game. And we had Pagan, Smeltzer, Fulmer, and Lopez all finish it off. Pagan, not great. Per usual, back to his old self. I still don't understand why he's in there in a tie ball game, but it was nice to finish this one off with a sweep too, because we always talk about like how you feel on Sunday can determine how you go through the rest of the week with that last game, and it was nice to just get the full sweep. This game was tight for a while, but they were able to push it across.
Yeah, I was worried in the 4th inning when Sanchez gets into a little bit of trouble, then Pagan comes in and walks the 2 guys that he faces right away there. But they're able to get out of that inning with only the 1 run allowed, and then the Twins answer right away with, of course, Jake Cave hitting a home run there to give him the lead. And then obviously they blow it open in the 5th with just one of those good old-fashioned rally innings.
Yeah, and it was a good game. We had 2 games in this series where after like the 5th inning, you were able to just have a sigh of relief, and you know that they're going to come away with it. And I think that not only is that nice as a fan, I think that's nice as a player too, because this team has been playing really tight, especially in that 6-game losing streak, and to have a couple laughers like this, that's huge.
And I tell you, 74 degrees, Hoges, 25,000 fans. What a beautiful day this would have been to take in a baseball game against a team that has not played at Target Field, I don't think ever, actually. The last time they played in Minnesota was 2005, back in the Metrodome.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. This is like the perfect time of year to be getting out to Target Field. I'm actually going to the Red Sox game tomorrow night, and the weather looks like it's going to be great, so I'm excited for that.
Well, I think that's all we need to talk about here in the recap about Game 3. We'll revisit this game a little bit more in our next segments, but let's move on to Puckett's Picks.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Hoges, The listeners are probably going to think we're really stupid because you win this, and this is nothing against you necessarily. Luis Ariz is always a fine pick, but of all the players for me and David to pick, we pick Miranda and Polanco, who combine for 0 points, and that allows you to win this with Luis Ariz with 2 Hoges. So congratulations.
I don't even know if we can really be bragging about this at this point because, I mean, what's the total for the last 2 games for the listeners? Like 3 points, and yet still 2 victories in that time frame.
It is 7, but I think combined.
You did get 6.
But David and I have -5 over that stretch. So we need to think outside the box more because those are the guys who were hitting so well. Though, of course, the moment we all abandoned Correa, then he has probably his best series of the season, it feels like.
It's just how it seems to go. Like we're kind of the kiss of death a little bit these last couple weeks. So we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, we're catching up. We're catching up in the standings here now.
Yes, so the listeners have 11. I have 14. David has 15. It feels nice to have some competition here going into the last month or so. I lead the season points scored 202. David's got 173. And Hoges, I love that the listeners are climbing now. They're within 7 at 166.
You got to love when you score 2 points and get a 3-point swing in your favor.
All right, well, Ariz wins the day again. Let's move forward to our next segment.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
A couple beast options here. How about you go first?
Yeah, this was finally fun for once to be able to look at the box score and just not pick a guy who didn't strike out 7 times. Pick out the guy who only struck out 5 times. But yeah, there's a lot of great options. I went with Carlos Correa. He went 8 for 12. His defense was superb. It seemed like every at-bat he was battling. Danny Gladden made a good point on the radio broadcast today that it seems like he's seeing the ball a lot better and he's jumping on strikes at the beginning of the count instead of waiting until it gets deeper. So it's always a good sign when you see a guy like that have a plan, execute that plan, and yeah, that 2-run homer was a huge start to this series, so I decided to give it to Correa.
I think, too, just the way that he's doing this without Buxton around him to seemingly kind of defend his at-bats. I mean, Game 3 today, he's got Kepler behind him, and he's doing the damage that he did. So I thought that was a testament to his, dare we say, the championship culture, again, that he's bringing. Hoges, I'm getting my hopes up. Is he going to stick around?
I think he is. Like when you guys were talking, when he made that comment to the Astros reporters, like, do you ever see yourself coming back here? And he's like, I think I'm going to be a Twin for a really long time. And you're absolutely right. Like, let's be honest. Like, what else are you going to say? Like,
sure.
Heck no, I'm out of here after 1 year. Like, what do you think I'm doing? But when you guys were talking about, has he earned that long-term contract? He absolutely has. I think he could still get that 10-year, 250 or whatever it is that they're talking about. But maybe he wants to bet on himself for 1 more year. It seems like he really likes it here. So I'm up to like 70-30 now on him staying.
Gosh,
we're up from
Hoges.
60-40. So
it keeps climbing here.
It does. If he keeps saying stuff like that and he keeps producing, and I think this was a big series for him too, because he hasn't really had any like Minnesota moments, for lack of a better word, for like what he's meant to this team. And like you said, with Buxton being out, he needed to step up, and he did, and that was huge in this series.
I'm going to go with Jake Cave because he was so big, obviously, in Game 2, setting up the 8th inning chance and then coming through in the 9th to tie the game. But then also here in Game 3, I mean, he makes that lead swinging home run to give the Twins a 3-2 lead, and then he backs it up again with a hit down the line to score 2 more later in the game to keep that rally going. And like you talked about, if this game is 6-3, that feels very different than an 8-3 game, with 3 innings left. So I went with Jake, the unsinkable. You can't get rid of him, but there he is having a great series. And
yeah, and he stole third base too in this game. Right. So yeah, definitely producing. But man, if I told you on August 28th, you would be picking Jake Cave as your beast, and then I followed that up with what place are the Twins in the Central, I think you would have said last.
Yeah, I think probably. Who did you put on your bench?
I put Gordon on there. He didn't have a great series. He went 1 for 11 with 3 Ks. He didn't look great in the field either. He takes a couple weird lines to some of those balls, but maybe this is kind of what you guys were talking about though in the last podcast, where those lower of the lineup guys need to produce. Cave chose this weekend to produce, and Gordon didn't. So man, if they keep doing this, that's a recipe for success still. But yeah, I gave it to Gordon.
He played second base in Game 3 because Polanco is out with a knee tweak or something like that. One of those words that Rocco used.
The pain management thing that we're so used to hearing with Buxton is not something I want to be hearing about Polanco too. And yeah, Gordon didn't look great at second today either. They had a double play where I'm not sure if Polanco's able to turn that a little bit quicker, but it just wasn't as smooth as it is between Correa and Polanco.
And again, a little hard to blame poor Nick Gordon, who's played seemingly every position. He's pitched. He's played second. I mean, he's played center. Probably, I think he's played some right and some left, and then even some short. So a little bit of, he's been all over the diamond. He's probably just confused about what he's supposed to do. You consider the shifting that the defense does. Poor Nick Gordon has no idea what position he's playing when he shows up to the baseball field.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely not fair to pick on this guy, too. who is playing all those different positions. And still, we got to remember, he's batting .268. So this guy has been an integral part of this offense. But on a series like this, you just 1 for 11 ain't going to cut it anymore.
No, and
we got expectations now.
Well, exactly. I went the other route because, I couldn't pick much in the lineup. Gary Sanchez even hit a home run in this series, so it's hard to pick on him. I went with Aaron Sanchez. The 3 2/3, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. That's just not enough, and I know that this game ended up going the Twins' way. I do give Rocco credit for pulling him when he did because I think it worked out, but he's a guy who's trying to cling to a spot in the rotation, and this outing just doesn't do anything for that.
I give you guys so much grief every single time I send you like my thoughts on the podcast, but you keep picking pictures. You keep picking pitchers. A guy who only pitches in 3 2/3 inning out of a 27 inning series, but nope, we're gonna blame it all on him. But yeah, when you're looking through the lineup, there isn't much else to give to on this guy during this series, so I will allow it with only a mild amount of grief.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, well, let's go ahead and go into Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
I want to know why we keep seeing Emilio Pagan in tie ball games. Like, we keep talking about how, okay, maybe he's a guy who's still got stuff and he can figure it out. So I understand putting him into a game where we have a massive lead or are very far behind. Like, let him pitch in those low leverage situations. But in game 3 today, he came in and it was a 3-3 ball game. He instantly walked 2 guys. None of the pitches were even competitive. And he gave up. I mean, it's so frustrating to me that this guy is being allowed to hurt this team so much. And it ended up not costing us because the offense ended up backing us up in this game, but keep throwing him in those low leverage situations. Like, Rocco keeps saying, yeah, he's going to be in low. I don't think he knows what low leverage means. A tie ball game is not low leverage. I get that it's early in the ball game, but I'm done. I've lost my patience on Pagan. If he loses one more game for us that we need, I can't handle it right now. He needs 2 weeks before he comes into a situation like that.
Well, you do wonder, like, if any of the Twins pitchers that they say are going to come back do come back. Bailey Ober, Josh Winder, Kenta Maeda, do they get rid of Pagan and just use one of those guys in that play? Is that what they're waiting for? Because if they DFA him now, they got to clear a spot on the 40-man, I would think. So that's got to be why, right?
It has to be, but is there anyone else that you would rather not see? I mean, like, look at who ended up pitching at the end of this game here. We had Smeltzer, Fulmer, and Lopez. I mean, if all those guys are ready, why is Pagan pitching in this game at all?
That is an important place in that game. You need the out there. And then if you get out of that jam, then you bring in Smeltzer. I think that was the plan. But again, why Pagan? All of the metrics point to this. But it's not even a metrics thing, Hoges. Like, he just has not played well. And I think that's the part I just don't understand why they keep trotting him out.
There's nothing more frustrating than watching a guy come in and instantly walk 2 guys either. Because it's like, well, there's not even a chance at any. You cannot have another result other than that if you're not throwing strikes. The experiment needs to be over. But I think you're right. I think if any of those guys come back, he's got to be near the top of that list for guys that are in trouble of keeping that roster space.
So for my Rocco's Rewind, I want to talk more about Game 1 and just what a fantastic showing that was. And I say this question, I'm not sure if it's in jest or not, but does this speak to Rocco's managerial abilities to just, win a game so decisively that they really need to win?
So are you alluding to the fact that they had the players meeting with the manager?
I am a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and David hates that stuff. He thinks, you heard him in the last podcast. He ranted about you on that one. But I think it does matter. And I liked your illustration with being a teacher too, how you can't do it every single week because then it's just falling on deaf ears. But this team was gripping the bats too hard. They weren't playing loosely, and so maybe that helped. I think it's real. Like, I believe in momentum. I believe in motivation like that. I think I like the rah-rah guys. I don't like the guys who do it all the time. But I think when a guy like Rocco, who is a rather laid-back manager, kind of just lets his guys know, hey, come on, we got an opportunity in front of us here. Let's go get it. I think we do give him credit for that. I think that speaks to his managerial abilities, and I put that on Rocco for sure.
I think too the fact that he didn't get fired in that spot, and because I think this is a situation where you could probably fire your manager, right? You lost 6 in a row down a key stretch. They didn't do that. He did remain pretty calm. Again, I love how articulate Rocco can be in his frustration. Like, I would just love to be down in the field once just to hear one of his rants, because I'm sure it's got to be fantastic. But I do think, I think it speaks also to just the way that he must have the trust of the players, and they do really like him. And I think that's really an important thing when you're a baseball manager.
And I think if he didn't have that, I think you're absolutely right. I think he could have been in danger of being on the hot seat after those last 6 games. I mean, the Twins went in this year. They got Carlos Correa. They went after 3 big guys at the trade deadline. And if you're not producing, the manager's a lot of times the first time to go. But I think he's earned the rest of this season at minimum just because of how he's handled situations like this. And from my limited perspective on the outside, it seems like he very much has the players' trust and they want to win for him.
Totally. All right, well, let's go forward to Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
I'll go first here, Hoges. We'll go chronologically. I'm going to go with Celestino's bases clearing double in Game 1. It made the game 6-0 at the time. It obviously was a bit of a foreshadowing for what a big series it was going to be for Celestino. Not big in a production sense necessarily, but a couple things about that. Dick Bramer on the telecast said that was his biggest hit of his career. And it's kind of hard to argue with that. I mean, a bases clearing double that was nearly a grand slam. That was pretty high off the wall there. So I'm going to say what a great moment for him. As a guy who's been on this roster, they want him to do well, but he's kind of struggled a little bit since a hot start. So good for Gilberto.
And I think it's a good pick for a Minnesota moment too, because that was so huge for the team. You turn what could have been a closer game into a laugher on one swing of the bat, and I think that set the tone for the rest of the series, and I love that.
And here in your moment, there's Celestino right there in yours.
He showed great patience at the plate. I'm going to pick the walk-off walk. Being able to stand there for 4 straight pitches and then take off your gear and walk down to first base, it doesn't get any better than that. And it kind of summed up this series a little bit for me, like a little bit of like an aw shucks win. Like, oh, well, we kind of snuck into that one. The next thing you know, after 6 games that we've lost, we've got 3 in a row, and here we go. Let's keep it up.
All right, well, let's keep going here with Maurer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Maurer's musings.
So for mine, the rotation's going to have another moment here, and I kind of alluded to this with Aaron Sanchez earlier. Malley comes back maybe at the end of this week. He's done some bullpen sessions. He seemingly is fine. I think the Twins were exercising some caution. Here's my question. At what point do we say goodbye, perhaps, to Chris Archer? Like, is this the time where they say Aaron Sanchez? I know he wasn't great in Game 3 here, but is he a better option than Chris Archer?
See, I don't understand the Chris Archer hate. Like, I think he's a fully acceptable 5th starter. Like, David went on that epic
he
rant
did, and that was
just
the ERA rant.
Started screaming at you about, like, how dare you be happy with a guy who's got, I mean, yeah, Chris Archer's ERA is 4.35. I mean, I did a little quick search on the other teams that have their 5th starter. That is better than almost every single one of them. And I don't understand how David doesn't understand that an ERA means in 9 innings. So if he is pitching 4, he's only going to give up about 2.2 runs, which is pretty good. I will take that. Do we want more innings? Yes, but we know what he is. So yeah, I want Chris Archer on this team. I think he's good, but it is a good question though when Malley comes back, like who kind of gets the boot? I imagine it's probably Sanchez, but then there's a lot of other pitchers that are coming up too. If Winder ends up coming back and Maeda ends up coming back and Ober ends up coming back, does that change the starting rotation? Do we finally get the piggyback? And I mean, I'm looking way too far ahead, but what does that mean for the playoffs? Does Archer end up moving to be like a bullpen guy when all of that happens? I think there's a lot of really interesting questions that hopefully they'll play long enough for us to have to actually answer.
I think it's got to be Sanchez. It's just too bad to me because I think Aaron Sanchez could be a serviceable starting pitcher in a rotation. I think this time somebody might actually pick him up, though. That's what I'm worried about. He's not going to be clear waivers.
I mean, it's weird that we're talking about a guy this glowingly who has a 7.16 ERA.
Yeah, if David wants to pick on ERAs, he should be picking on Aaron Sanchez, not Chris Archer.
I think he's almost a good mix-up to like the rest of this rotation, too, because he doesn't throw as much flame as the other. I know Ryan doesn't throw that fast either, but I don't know. Sometimes it's good having those guys in there. But I do think he will get picked up if they end up having to drop him. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I mean, fingers crossed that Malley comes back and he's okay anyways, because he already was on the IL for the same issue earlier with the Reds. All right, my question. You guys talk all the time about what was Carlos Correa losing sleep about Royce Lewis or Nick Gordon or Palacios. Well, now with the way Jake Cave is playing, is Byron Buxton losing some sleep over Jake Cave taking center field from him right now? I mean, do we have a controversy? We got a competition right now.
I saw that Buxton is still trying to bring charisma to the Twins, even as he's on the injured list here. So he's trying to find his way. I'm going to interpret your question more as when is Byron Buxton coming back to this team? Because I wonder if he's going to have, like, is this 10-day going to turn into 15? Are they going to be super careful? Does it honestly depend on the play of Jake Cave? Like, if Jake Cave is playing pretty well, do they say, we don't really need to rush you back, Byron Buxton?
It really might. And this one makes me nervous because they avoided putting him on the IL for so long when he clearly was hurting. And it's a little scary now because we've seen it happen with him where he gets on there and then next thing you know, 2 months have gone by and he's not back. He definitely wasn't himself. And you got to hope that this time, maybe if it is only 2 weeks, that'd be great. If he can come back and that knee will be feeling better, that hip will be feeling better. But I think we can all agree we need him if we're going to make a run at this.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's a happy grading time here for this series here, Hoges.
Series grades.
Finally, it's an A. I don't know how you can give it anything else. The bullpen did great. The starting pitching did great. The lineup did great. All around A. I'm feeling good about this one.
Yeah, I think the clutch play in Game 2 to kind of get some payback for the games that they really gave away, like the Giants gave that one away to the Twins, honestly, with chances in the 8th and the 9th inning like that. Got to be an A. And to do it at home, to set up a big series against the Red Sox, they're all big series, I guess, now. And again, to get within 2 games of the Guardians, they're right there.
And the Giants aren't a bad team. I mean, they're not a great team by any chance, but they're not a bad team. So it was nice to get that sweep. And the schedule doesn't get any easier from here either. So you got to win all the games that you can because it's tough going for the next couple of weeks.
All right, let's look around the league here with Herbie's headline.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So, Hoges, I wanted to look around the league here in Seattle at Julio Rodriguez's new contract that he got. It's a giant deal for a guy who's still a rookie. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, but I think they're trying to kind of prevent the Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez situations where those guys left and had great careers elsewhere. But, Hoges, the details of this contract are pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. So the base of the deal is 8 years and $120 million, which on its face, you're like, oh, that seems pretty fair. But it could be for 8, 13, 16, or 18 years. It guarantees him the $210 million, and if it maxes out, it'll be $470 million. So it's just a super unique contract, and you got to wonder if more teams are going to kind of start doing this in the future, or is this something the Twins should even be looking at for doing with Miranda?
Well, see, this is why I asked, because it feels a little bit like Buxton's deal, where there's a lot of escalators that can make it valuable for the player. I think the union could be a little bit ambivalent about this, because there's not the guaranteed money that they might want of, say, a Juan Soto deal, where it's 14 years, $440 million, basically all guaranteed. But at the same time, like, guys are getting paid their value, and this is skipping over, I think, some of his cheaper years that he could have had in the way that the Twins, like, Luis Arraez, he's an all-star, and yet he's not getting paid like an all-star for a couple years, Hoges.
Yeah, baseball's got such weird contracts, like, just in general. But the weird thing to me about contracts like this, so, I mean, the Braves just gave out, like, 10-year contracts to almost all of their prospects. Basically just said, yeah, the team that we have picked right now, we think they're going to be good for 10 years. But these contracts are so weird, and Buxton's is like this, too, is they're almost all dependent on MVP voting, which to me seems like the most subjective thing ever. I mean, it's determined by a bunch of writers, so I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Well,
but
I suppose,
it is
but I suppose some of
interesting.
that, to jump in, like, I suppose some of that is because the nature of the game can change. Like, we've seen the way that the shift has impacted how players hit. We've talked about, I mean, you and I obviously are big fans of keeping the shift in allowance, but players have complained that it's killed their careers, and even just look what it's done to Max Kepler, or, even a guy like Jorge Polanco, and you see how they're having to adapt, and I love the adaptation, but I wonder if that's partially why. Are they trying to protect players just in case guys who can only hit a certain way, but the game changes around them?
Well, and stats change too. I mean, look at how many home runs the Twins hit in 2019. And that was crazy. They broke the record. They'll never get close to that again unless they change the ball again. So much is so dependent on the ball, how pitchers are throwing, like you said, the defenses that teams are using against guys. It's definitely a sport where statistics can range so wildly from year to year based on these what seem like small factors that are changed. But it is interesting to see if this will kind of be how contracts get done in the future. But good for them. I mean, it's nice to see the Mariners lock up a guy like that is going to be there for a long time. And he's exciting to watch. I mean, he was great in the home run derby. So I think this is a big win for them for sure.
And I do think this is a way that those teams that are in those markets, kind of like the Twin Cities size, can keep these players and keep them happy and feel like they're not throwing extraneous money at guys. And to come back to Miranda, like, I'm not suggesting that the Twins give him a deal of this length and this value, but I do wonder, like, it looks like he's the third baseman of the future here. Do you give him a 10-year contract with kind of a structure like this?
I think I would. I mean, because he was so consistent last year. And I know that's only AAA. It's not the major leagues, and they're two entirely different things. But the guy has hit for average now for 2 years pretty solidly without having any long extended slumps. And when he has had slumps of like shorter nature, he's come back from them and still produced. So it's not like guys have figured him out by any means. Like he's been up here enough. He leads the team in RBI this year. I can't say RBIs. I'm literally talking to an English major or an English teacher. But yeah, I'd give him a 10-year contract. Again, it's not my money. I'd pay Correa whatever he wants to. So,
and who knows, if they gave Miranda a nice contract and you got Polanco there, Correa, again, he slots in. He knows what he would be. Now what that does to Royce Lewis in the future, we don't really quite know. But those are not things we luckily have to decide, Hoges.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's Picks.
Hoges, you get to pick for the listeners again. Are you going to stick with the slow and steady here, Luis Arias?
I thought about it long and hard because I've won two times in a row. We've won them. The listeners have won 2 times in a row with Arias. Do we stick with the hot hand? And 2 points just isn't going to cut it for me. So I'm going to switch to Correa. He seems like he's really figuring it out now. He's jumping on those pitches early in the count, and I like where he's going. I like this guy's building this championship culture here. He's going to be here for years to come. He's starting to get his Minnesota moments. It's going to continue into this series.
If there's ever a time to pick Carlos Correa, it's got to be now. So David, who gets to pick before me because Polanco had a slightly worse series than Miranda did. Well, he's going to be bold here. He's going to go with Max Kepler. So apparently he thinks his foot is healed, Hoges.
Every time David picks Kepler, he goes off, though. So I'm kind of excited about this. And hey, if any guy can do it with only 5 toes, I'm sure Kepler can. So let's see it.
Gosh, I guess, as much as I would love to pick, this is a hard team to go with right now because you just don't know, first of all, who's healthy. Last time we talked about Polanco being healthy, and he's not. Now he's hurt. You know what?
Jake Cave looked pretty healthy. Sliding into third on that stolen base, Dan. I think you know where your heart needs to take you.
You know what? What the heck? Let's pick Jake Cave. I don't think I've picked him all season. Arias is slow and steady, but I'm going to stick with. I'll go with Cave, Hoges. You've talked me into
there
it.
we go. I like it. If
all right.
told you that Kepler and Cave would be getting picked on August 28th, I think we'd be nervous again there too.
Oh my gosh. Well, Hoges, I don't know if we're going to talk again this season. Maybe David's been on vacation now. He's up in Duluth, I think, with his family. He's gone to the North Shore.
Does he work at all anymore, or is he just constant? Do either of you work? I think you both just travel the whole U.S. this whole summer.
By the way, did you look at the Twins schedule? Do you have a trip you'd want to take?
Oh, there's so many of them. I actually agreed with you guys quite a bit. Like I've always wanted to go to Seattle because I've heard that stadium's really awesome to be out there, and Atlanta's very high on my list too. I think that'd be a fun city to visit. It'd be fun to see the Braves and Eddie Rosario. Camden Yards would be great too to see the Orioles. I kind of got a little carried away like you did with Busch Stadium and then make the whole circle around there too. It's so fun looking at that schedule because like my brain instantly thinks, oh, I have unlimited money and unlimited PTO. I'm going to all of these games. And then like slowly over the next 10 months, I like wind myself back down, and I'll probably settle on one, but we'll see. And furthering that point, I'm super excited about in 2024 because we'll play Pittsburgh on the road, we'll play San Diego on the road, we'll play San Francisco on the road, as long as if they're rotating it every year, and we'll play the Cubs in Wrigley. So I love this new schedule. It's awesome. I think it encourages baseball fans to go see more away games. And what's better than going to an away game for baseball? All the stadiums are so unique, and it's so fun to be able to see a new city and then go out to a ballpark in the summer. I love it. I love when the schedule comes out.
Man, Hoges, you're tapping into the romance of baseball summers with your boy, right, and going on a trip.
Right?
And, oh my gosh! All right, well, someday we're gonna have to go on a podcast trip with our kids, right? David
Absolutely.
Can bring his. We'll bring. Oh, it'll be great fun.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Men for the Win. You can find our Men for the Win Facebook page. You can find us on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when any new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, that would be great. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.